Welcome back to Talkin Smack. You're joined with Ryan Chilvessa,
How are we all?
Cody Gay,
How's it going?
and me, Sam Bradford. Today we chat with Cody about his racing, his experiences, and the future of racing. We also chat a mixture of safety, his sponsors, some charity work. Yeah, so enjoy it and we'll see what happens.
Beautiful.
Alright. So, Cody, we'll start straight away, mate, into introducing yourself. So, how about start with your childhood, where you grew up? And
Yeah, no worries at
go
all.
into the present.
Yeah, so I was born in Deloraine, in Tassie, so I'm 21 years of age now. I was born in 2003. I lived there for about 2.5 years. Then moved to the Gold Coast when I was, like I said, about 2.5 age. Lived there till I was about 12, so about 10 years sort of mark, and then moved back down here and been living in out at Pontville near Brighton there ever since. So it's been really good to sort of be able to see all different sort of places around Australia, which is nice. Spent a couple months there in Darwin as well, which was quite cool. It's quite cool. So yeah, been able to sort of have a childhood where I was able to sort of see the whole sort of Australia type of deal, which was really nice.
So your family's in Darwin, was it?
No, so my family's born and the whole family's sort of born, yeah, my father's side anyway, born in Deloraine. And then yeah, we family had a couple of business interests up in Darwin as well, so I was able to sort of go there for a month and have a look around and see what that place was like, and it's an absolute wild joint if you can ever get up there.
Yeah.
And then same thing while we moved to the Gold Coast, had some family business interests there, so lived there for about 10 years, and that was again another wild place for a completely different reason. So I like it a lot down here now. It's a lot more chill, a lot more relaxed. Like everything's a lot slower pace. I don't have to go flat out. Yeah, so I'm a qualified sign writer now. I qualified about 12 months ago now, which is really cool. So I work out at Sign Nation in Gren. It's a really great crew out there. Yeah, it's really about the gist of it.
Yeah. No, got to say, very good crew. I work there too, so it's brilliant. So we want to get into the racing. So how would you describe your style of car racing?
Yeah, so we race on a dirt track or a speedway track. It's a circular track, roughly comprising about 400 metres around the sort of the bottom of the track. It's made up of clay, so it's real grippy. And yeah, I drive a 800 horsepower car sideways on it all day long, which is really, really fun. So it's really close, tight, packed high adrenaline top sport, which is really fun.
Yeah, nice.
And that was that white car outside of your work?
Yeah.
Last week?
The other week, yeah. So yeah, it's really cool to be able to say that when people go, what do you do for sport? To be able to go, they go, oh, you play soccer, that, and you go, well, no, actually, I drive race cars, which is really cool. So yeah, it's a sort of a niche type of sport. Like not many people know about it, but a lot of people once they show up and actually come watch it, like that was really awesome. So it's really cool.
It's entertaining.
You drive near the Molesworth track?
Yeah, so that's where we race.
Because I remember my dad took me there a couple of times when I was little.
Yeah.
Like, this is sick. And then when cars drive past you, I thought it was dirt, but it's clay. It just comes and flicks you in the eyes and things like that. You see cars crash and like, this is sick.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Do they water the track?
Yeah, so a lot of track prep goes into it. So they'll grate the track, put water through it, pack it back flat, then we race on it. And that's the major thing compared to sort of circuit racing, compared to dirt racing, is the track evolves so much throughout the night. So, like regular, dirt, for instance, like you give it time, it dries out. You roll cars over it all day long, it dries out. It's the same with speedway racing. So you've got to adapt so much to the track throughout the night, which is really cool about it as well. You're constantly trying to keep on top of a setup in the car, and makes it really interesting for me because I do a lot of the setup side of it as well. So it keeps me definitely on my toes.
So how did you get into racing, and when did you get into racing?
So I started racing when I was about 6. The reason I got into racing is my dad raced since he was probably about 20. So by the time I sort of came through as a kid and can really remember, he'd sort of finished up. And then I started, essentially, it was a go-kart, sort of like a roll cage on top of it. It's the best way to describe it. So yeah, I started racing then when I was 6. Then when I got to about sort of 10 to 12 years of age there, I then progressed up to what they call a junior sedan, which is like a Hyundai XL, like a Mitsubishi Lancer type of street car that then put a roll cage in and all that, and you race with the other kids from 10 to 16 years of age, and you race around a larger speedway track. And yeah, now I race a dirt late model, which is a purpose-built race car. So they've got a V8 motor in them, putting out about 800 horsepower, all purpose-built race gear, race tyres and all that, and we're able to do sort of go around in a 400 metre track sideways in 13 seconds. So it's pretty quick.
The little 4 cylinders that you drove when you were 12 to 16, how much horsepower do they pack?
Roughly about your 80 to 100, 80, 50, 80,
So
100, depending
pretty
on...
much stock, but there's just be a handle and suspension and the roll cage that will be added to it.
That's exactly right. It's pretty well sort of... It's stock motor, essentially. Suspension is sort of stock. Like, it's the best stuff you can go and buy off the shelf at your regular, like a Petter's dealer or something like that, to put in the car. And then like all the doors are taken off and replaced with 5-glass panels and all that, because you don't really need steel and glass and all that stuff around.
So you take all the glass as well and just plastic?
No, so we just run it all open.
Yeah.
Because obviously when you start running plastic and stuff like that, it gets dirty and all that sort of stuff.
Clean,
so
scratch.
Yeah, obviously all that stuff makes something to see out of.
So when did you start kind of competing? Was that quite a grassroots level when you kind of first start? Or
So that was at about that 6 years old mark. So we're still racing sort of competitively as you can for like 6-year-old, you know what I mean? Like
the league where the parents take it more seriously than
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's like, oh, you should really go out there and beat Timmy, and you're like, oh well, Timmy's a great guy, why do I want to beat him for? They're like, no, you want to beat him. But and then sort of as you get older, it gets more and more and more competitive. It's sort of exactly like club soccer, you know, like, or stuff like that. Like you start off in that junior program where you're all just sort of kicking a ball around and working out what does what and all that sort of stuff, and by the time you sort of get to that 12 to 16 mark, you're going, oh no, winning feels really, really good. And then when you get that 16 plus, that's really all you want to do is go out and win. So
when you're kind of in the youth levels, is that quite packed with many people, and does it kind of thin out as people get older?
Definitely does, and that's got to do with a lot of things, like interests as well. Like, you know, like I'll spend at the moment probably 30 hours a week working on my car after I already do a sort of a 40, 50 hour week at work. So it's real time consuming. When you sort of get to that 16, 18 mark, you've got other things you want to do. Like you want to go travel, you want to go out to nightclubs, you've got girlfriends, whatever it is. So it can thin out for that reason. It also thins out because once you sort of get past that junior level, it gets really expensive really quickly. So even at junior levels, it's quite dear. Like it's definitely a lot cheaper to go kick a soccer ball around. If you can convince your kids to do that, I'd recommend it. But once you get sort of that next step up, it just everything starts getting a lot more expensive, a lot more quickly. So
what's the kind of price range for a youth level?
So we'll go with like that middle pack, like that junior scene I was talking about earlier. That was sort of the middle of the road sort of mean career progression. They're roughly about a $5,000 to a $10,000 car. So it's still quite dear. Like it's definitely not cheap. Then you got to put all your safety gear and all that on top of it, which is another $1,000 roughly, a bit more, a bit less. Then obviously you need a trailer, take the car to and from the track, another couple $1,000. Like you can go overboard, obviously. Like you can go and buy a truck and go, well, we're going to put this car in a $100,000 truck. But you know, if we're talking just realistic scams and stuff like that, you need roughly that sort of $10,000 to $15,000 sort of $1,000 to compete at that sort of area. So
you'd classify that as a challenge, isn't it? Because if you can't really pay for it, you can't really race, can you?
That's exactly right. Like it's you see with a lot of soccer stuff and all that sort of stuff, or football and all that, when you become good enough, you sort of don't have to pay anymore. You get paid by clubs to be there. Whereas no matter really how good you are in racing, like you're paying somewhere along the line in some way, shape, or form. Like there are rides that you can get where you don't have to pay for anything, but that's the top 1%, right? It's really, really, really hard to get there.
So that's with sponsors coming in, doesn't it? So you can go around, ask for people to sponsor you, and they can provide you money towards gear, or how does that work?
Yeah, so that's definitely right. So we get appearance money and prize money for racing a night. So to put it roughly into perspective, if I averaged every race meeting out on big purses to win and small prize money win, all that sort of stuff, if you win every night throughout a season, you're roughly getting $1,000. Well, it costs us $1,000 at the moment with the late model just to lower the truck door. By the time you pay for diesel and fuel and you know, food in the truck and maintenance on the car and all that sort of stuff, for us just sort of get to the track and unload the truck, it's about $1,000. So it's not something that you can really make a profit doing. But that's where, like I said, sponsors come in, and that's sort of where it helps. So we've got a great bunch of marketing partners / sponsors on our car. Like if I just name them off quickly, we've got Taz Silver Products, McDonald's, McGarry & Co, Industrial Appetite, Sign Nation, SD Packaging, Van Diemen's, Cafe de Wheels, AHC Engineering, Strut Regas, Racer Industries, KCB Landscaping. I am forgetting one, and it will come back to me in a minute. But when you got amazing partners like that, I hope up out of Cody. You'll come back to me.
There you go.
When you got amazing partners like that, it really allows you to take that next step. Because obviously, where we're competing at the moment, the more money you can spend, the better you're going to be. Like, obviously, there's talent plays a massive role in that as well. Like, if you're hopeless, you can spend all the money you want, but you're not going to be any good, right?
It comes with skill too, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. But without sponsors, you just can't do it.
Yeah.
It's just not.
And you've got these sponsors by going out and reaching them for them, or
that's it.
Like, they've got in touch with you.
Mixture of both. So a lot of our sponsors I've gone out and contacted, and we've been lucky to have a couple where they've reached out to me and gone, "Hey, we're interested in sponsoring a race car. Can you send us a proposal and all that sort of stuff and all that?" Like, it's still competitive. If someone reaches out to you, it's not always guaranteed that you're going to get that sponsor. You have to impress them through your results, through how you present yourself, how you present the team, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's really, like you said, it's really a sort of and everyone's trying to get a sponsor. So, you've got to be sort of strategic how you do it. Like, if you look on everyone else's car and everyone's got the same sponsor, well, 9 times out of 10, if you go to them, they're going to be like, "Well, mate, I already sponsor everyone else." So
sponsor or whatever they kind of.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to sponsor you, right? I already give all this money to people. So you sort of got to look at in different markets, and you've also got to different sponsors require different services as well. Like, through our sponsorship with McDonald's, McGar and Co, they're massive on the charity side of life. So we try as hard as we can to also be very charitable in what we're doing.
Yeah, and I look forward to
sort of stuff.
Talking a bit more about the charity work you do with, for example, Ronald McDonald's side of things. If we want to kind of get a bit more into the kind of your achievements, so you were saying that with the sponsors, they'll kind of want to sponsor you because you've kind of achieved stuff. So you want to kind of talk about the type of racing league you're in, who you kind of race with, and then what have you achieved with the racing? Yeah,
so we race with the Tasmanian Late Model Club. That's what it's called. So as I was saying earlier, a dirt late model is a purpose-built chassis race car. So it's not like a car that you go buy from the showroom, then you put a roll cage in. Like, it's purposely built to be a race car and to do what it's doing. So we race with them, and like I said, 800 horsepower motors, massive amounts of torque, massive amounts of horsepower. So we were lucky enough last weekend at Hobart to set a new lap record at Hobart, which is a massive, provisional lap record for Hobart, still waiting to be confirmed by timing officials and all that.
Provisional, do you mean just you on the track, just having a bit of a muck around, or?
Oh no, other cars on track during a race, so we won that race as well, which was really good. But when I say provisional, it takes a bit of time because the track circuit on that, you can cut a corner.
Yeah, okay.
Like, if you cut a corner there, they've got data logging and tracking to make sure that when you've done that lap, that all four wheels are on the right part of the track and you weren't doing anything malicious or anything like that to try and gain a bit of time.
Yeah. So, if you do that, do they count, he was off the track for 1 minute, like a second, do they count that off your lap and then...
No,
or do they just wipe the lap? Yeah.
Wipe the lap
so that means if you're doing, let's say, 20 laps and that happens, you have to do that 21 laps, sorry.
You are given a bit of grace. So with lap times, they will wipe it completely, especially if it's for a lap record. Yeah. They'll wipe the lap time. But in terms of over a race, if you accidentally cut a little bit of the track, it's just smack on the wrist. That's a warning. Don't do it again. Yeah. Otherwise, we'll park you.
Yeah.
So... yeah, we're able to set a provisional lap record at the moment, so we're waiting for that to be confirmed, which is a massive achievement for us, which means essentially we're the fastest person in a late model and sedan in Tasmania to ever go around that track, which was really cool.
Excellent.
Been able to win a couple of feature races, which was really awesome. We went a couple of years ago to Warrnambool, Victoria, to race in the Australian late model title, which is cars from every state show up here to race. So out of 46 cars, I think we're running 11th at the time in the feature, and then we had an issue with the car broke. So that was really cool to be able to do too, to sort of be like, we're running in sort of the top 11 in the country. And stuff like that. It's just really cool to be able to achieve that sort of stuff. And last year, we managed to go through the whole entire year where we just didn't finish outside the top 3.
Yeah, wicked. So huge podium finishes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's cool to be able to show a lot of consistency and also be really quick every time we go out. Because if you're going out there every time and it's like, let's see if we can finish last tonight. Like, it just sort of gets a bit boring. But when you show up to the track, you're like, oh, we could win here tonight if we just do everything right. That's a really cool feeling to be able to do.
Yep. So do you want to quickly cover behind the scenes of who's part of the team as well?
Yeah, so obviously I couldn't do anything I'm doing without my mum and dad. They're major reason in why I'm doing it and why I can still do it. Like, I'm on one wage by myself and all that, and as I said, it's $1,000 every time we unload the back door. So you can imagine what costs are then if you crash or if you wreck or anything like that. So they're major supporters of mine, and they have been, and I definitely wouldn't be able to do anything I do now without them. I've also got my partner Malia. She's a massive supporter of mine. She understands what time goes into it. Never one usually complain when I'm out in the shed from 6 o'clock in the afternoon until about 1 o'clock in the morning. She'll sort of just walk out, bring me a cup of coffee and go, oh yeah, you're okay. Then her brother Caden, he's a massive help on the car as well now. We've also got Maddie, who I work with, and Sam works with as well. Yeah. He helps with David as well.
Maddie totally.
And then I've got my uncle Rick, who he lives in Brisbane, but he flies down fairly frequently and helps out massive as well.
Excellent.
And yeah, like a bit more behind the scenes stuff, like it's a massive commitment, and that's when I said earlier, like that's where I'll weed out a lot of people at sort of that 20 years of age, because they want to go do other stuff, which is like, I don't blame this. A lot of times I'm in the shed and I'm going, geez, it'd be really nice to go, to Europe this summer, but I just can't because I'm going racing.
That's where the passion and the love comes for it, though.
And that's exactly right. It's a bit like yourself. Like, I know you're going to the US next year to watch soccer. Like, it's because you love soccer. Like,
yeah. And I love it.
And it's that type of stuff where, like I said earlier, I'll spend 30 hours a week to 50 hours a week in the shed. And then I've got to go do my regular job as well. So there's a lot of time in just fine-tuning and being competitive in the shed and that as well, which is really cool.
Yep. So we'll touch back to you going to the Australian titles.
Yep.
So it's disappointing to hear that the car had its problems. But
yep.
What an experience to have. Do you want to kind of run me through how did you get to that spot where you were able to represent in the Australian titles?
Yeah, so it was really, for a lot of time, so it's one of those sort of things where if you've got a car and you've done a certain amount of races, you can go. But my dad always said to me, look, we're not going until you're not going to embarrass yourself. So we'll race for a couple of years and then you can go, we'll see what happens there. So for us, it's a massive endeavour to go. We'll, load the car, load the truck, whole heap of spare parts, all that sort of stuff, to then go on Spirit, cross the water, and then go travel where we've got to travel, and just working out the back of a truck to sort of go racing. That's, as funny as it sounds, it's a really cool experience. Like, everyone's at a real tight-knit, bit of a pressure environment, sort of builds a lot of camaraderie, I suppose is the right word for it, between everyone. So we're able to go over there, and there's 3 nights of racing. So you have your practice night, let's call that, it was on a Thursday, and we're really, really bad, like really, really, really bad. And then you've got your preliminary night, which consists of 2 heat races and a preliminary feature. So, and then you've got your final night, which consists of another heat race and the main feature to crown whoever wins the Australian title.
Yep.
So we're okay on our preliminary night, not setting the world on fire, not sort of making a mess of ourselves, just very mediocre. And then on our final night, we're actually quite quick. We ended up beating in our last heat race the person who finished 2nd and 3rd in the Australian title. So that was pretty cool to be able to do.
How many people represented in the whole race?
47, I think.
47.
So you're 47 on the track? Or is it
no, so it's
impossible?
Yeah, it gets a bit hard. There was 47 cars show up. 24, I think, made the A main. So we gridded up out of 19th, I think. And yeah, like I said, we're running 11th with, I think it was probably 3 laps to go or something like that. So, which was really cool to be able to do that. So,
and what happened to the car for you to have car problems?
We had a motor blow up. So,
because
the motors are so high strung and get as much performance out of them as you can get out of them, sometimes things just go wrong. So the piston that was in the motor decided it didn't want to be in the motor anymore, and it came outside.
Yeah,
essentially.
What would your revs be at consistent? Could you have to could you stay sideways? From what I remember watching it, to stay sideways, you'd have to surely constantly hit the accelerator on and off to stay consistent. So your revs would just be up and down, if not plus 5,000 or so. Yeah,
we will max out at about 8,500 to 9,000.
Yeah.
And then if I was saying average through a lap, it's usually about 7,500, roughly. So like, no wonder they blow up. Like, if you're
Yeah.
a piston in there, you're going up and down 9,000 times in a minute, like, I'd probably give up as well. But, and like you said, to get the car to turn, you've got to use the hub the throttle, and you don't really turn the car with your steering wheel. You turn it with the throttle. So you're trying to break traction to get it to rotate and then to go around a corner. Like, when I say tighter, what I mean is, like, a car that doesn't want to turn is what we call tight. So if I'm coming into a corner and I turn the steering wheel and the car sort of wants to go straight ahead, that's called a tight car. And if I come into a corner and I turn the steering wheel and it spins me out straight away, it's what we call a loose car. So in a circuit racing version, a tight car is called understeer and a loose car is called oversteer. So you want a little bit of a tighter car if you're racing by yourself, because you can just drive really hard with the rear wheels and it won't spin itself out. But if I'm racing in lap traffic or I'm racing in sort of down the back of the field, you want to have a really loose car because you want to be able to be real pointy in the front end and be able to turn really easy so you can sort of get underneath people and manoeuvre really quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Was there anything you want to cover about the Australian titles you've done?
Not really. Like I said, it's a great experience, and for us to go over there and do that, like, I think we were the second highest Tasmanian car running at the time when we broke, which was really, really cool, and we're only one of 3 to actually make the main event, which was really awesome.
Did you go this year, sorry, or was that last year?
2 years ago now.
Is it every 2 or 3 years, or was it
Every
yearly?
year. Every year, so it moves state to state. So this year it's in Perth, Western Australia.
Is that why you didn't go this year?
Yeah,
It's such a commitment.
It's just so hard for us to get over there. Like, I've got to take... Essentially, it's 3 days travel over there, so I've got to take 3 days off to go over there. Plus, then I'm racing for 3
2 weeks
days.
off work minimum.
2 weeks off work minimum. So it's just really hard to get over there and come back. And mum and dad own a small business and that as well, and it's hard for them to sort of take 2 weeks off just to go, oh, well, we're shutting the doors, we're going racing for 2 weeks. I think that gets hard as well.
Where's it next year?
I believe it hasn't been announced yet, but it sounds like it's going to be up the Eastern Seaboard, so we'll probably go next year, I'd say. It's really cool.
Has it been held in Tassie? Do they don't have the facilities?
Not yet. So there's been talk in the near future of it being down here, which would be really, really cool. So hopefully in the next sort of 2 to 3 years, it comes down here, and then I can sleep in my own bed of a night.
Yeah,
and I can get back on track.
Lovely. Just quickly with the sponsors before we move on, just because when I saw your car, it was all white. Were you wrapping it with your sponsors, or do you just drive it plain white?
No, so we wrapped it with the sponsor. So I've got phone here.
Yeah, sweet.
So at the moment, it's...
Is it easy to wrap a fiberglass car compared to like what you guys would do businesses and get other vehicles and things like that?
Depends on it. Like, it's just very different on what you're sort of doing at the time. Like, with work related side of it, like, to wrap a flat car versus wrap a curved car.
I reckon we can fit Talkin Smack podcast. That's clean though.
No, excellent. So we're going to have a quick break and then we'll get back into
No worries at all.
some future stuff. So, yeah, we're back soon. So welcome back. We're going to jump into talking about some challenges. So have you had any major setbacks or any injuries at all?
Yeah, like, in terms of setback stuff, like, obviously breaking gear and equipment and all that's always a major setback, both, you know, mentally and financially. And especially, like, when you have a big crash, right? Like, the amount of commitment you've got to have to drive as fast as what we do, like, if you have a major crash, you're always very hesitant the next time you drive again to be like, oh, you know, this happened once, this is going to happen again. But it's sort of just a thing where as soon as you put the helmet on, you sort of change your mindset. You just switch off. You're like, oh, well, job has to be done here, so we just go and do it. In terms of injury, like, I've been pretty lucky. I've rolled a couple cars. I've had some bruised tailbones and some, like, a bit of nerve stuff in the bottom of my back. Same with, like, I've had a bar go through the side of my leg, which still, you know, if it gets real cold or something like that, I still feel that pretty bad. But in terms of major injuries, I've been pretty lucky. There's a lot of people obviously aren't.
Do you know any stories of people in your race or that you know of that have had
I know
big
a lot
injuries?
of, like, my cousin, he races, he's broken his back.
That's brutal.
Yeah, it wasn't good. He broke that while I was racing in Victoria, so it's a fair way from home when he broke that as well. Look, breaking back's fairly common just because of the way cars, like, it's if your car rolls up in the air and then comes back down, it's a very awkward angle for your back, obviously.
Yeah. You see some horrific injuries on, like, the news or Formula 1 or whatever.
Well, Michael Antonio, the West Ham player, he's recently been involved in a car accident.
That was brutal.
That was cooked, and he needs to take a year off. He had surgery on his lower back, and he's 34, so you think that's his career over, unfortunately. But yeah, horrible scenes. And you see a vehicle in an accident, you're like, how can you survive that?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's ridiculous. So I can only imagine you being in an accident in a race and what your family on the sideline, like, what they would instantly have to think worst case scenario here.
Yeah, like, it's fairly safe now. Like, 20 years ago it wasn't.
The safety standards.
Nothing was safe 20 years ago.
Yeah,
Fair.
like, the safety standard has gone up fairly fast, fairly quickly. Like, I've got my helmet here. So, this one's not carbon fibre, but a lot of them now are.
What's this made out of?
So this is a lightweight composite. So when it's this is a Bell helmet, like just a brand, many different ones. So when they're testing the factory, they're strong enough to have a 10-ton truck on top of them without the helmet breaking. So a lot of the earlier times they were afraid of helmets when you crash, they would break or crack and all that, and we had to get rid of that really quickly. The second thing about it is our visor. So that used to just be one piece of plastic. But now it's pretty hard to sort of probably see on camera.
Pretty thick.
But if you look up in
there,
there's a fair bit of layers in there. And why they've designed that like that for, and the visor space used to also be probably up to here and about down to here. And they've narrowed that up a lot now. And the reason they've done that for is a guy who raced F1 named Felipe Massa. He was wearing a Bell helmet and a spring came off another car in front of him. And it came through and it really severely hurt him because what it done is it actually punctured through the visor. And the spring came in and got him inside the helmet.
Wow.
So they've done a lot of innovation around that. This stuff on top, that's just all sort of, for me...
Is that a breathing tube?
Yeah, it's just comfort. To make sure I've got cool air coming through and all that sort of stuff. That's same with air.
How often do you have to change the helmet? Is it yearly or...?
Every 5. Every 5 years.
Yeah, unless it's been...
Is that a safety recommendation or is that like the race has to? Non-negotiable?
Yeah.
Is that just for racing or can you still slap this racing on if you're just having a bit of a fuck around on a track?
Racing in general and practice and all that.
Yeah.
Throw away. So like I can give this to you and you can put it on your head and go ride a motorbike down the street with it.
Yeah.
But I can't race with it anymore.
Yeah. Is this like different compared to other races like your V8, your Formula 1s, your...
So this is the same as a Formula 1 helmet.
Yep.
This is what this is. It's a Formula 1 type helmet. It's the same with a V8 Supercar helmet. They're all the same. Compared to the helmet you would go down to the motorbike shop and buy off the shelf though, fairly different. So this helmet is $1,600 roughly, whereas you can go buy sort of a normal motorbike helmet for about $200.
Yeah.
It's just a lot with an inside of them as well, which again is going to be hard for the camera to see, but they run
fireproof.
Yeah, so this is just, we also run a lot of fireproof undergarment.
Yeah, that was my next question. Well. What about the other parts of the gear?
Yeah, so we run a fireproof. So we run underneath so we've got a race suit, which you'll see from outside. But underneath that race suit, we also run a full layer of fireproof sort of, we call it undergarments, but essentially a pair of like jeans and a long sleeve shirt, socks, and a thing called a balaclava, which goes over your head.
There you go. Yep.
This here is just another thing. It sits on there to stop flames coming in like that. It also serves a good purpose to stop dirt and rocks and all that down in you as well. So, and same with padding inside the helmet. They do a really good job now of absolutely trying to pad as much as they can in there.
Yeah.
Is that just styrofoam?
No, it's not styrofoam. So if you feel inside of it, it's actually like a memory foam type stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it looks a lot softer than what...
Yeah.
It feels a lot softer than what it looks.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You should put it on, brother.
No, I'm going
It's fairly thin. And then on the side here, we've got these clips. And that runs for a thing called a Hans device. And essentially what that is, it's a neck restraint that goes over your head. You then clip it to your helmet, and then your race belts go over the top. And so that's when you crash. We're having a lot of dramas sort of in the early 2000s where guys were crashing and they couldn't stop their neck from going forward. Like their neck would just reach forward.
Just like the ripple effect, just...
Whiplash.
Yeah, essentially exactly what it is, right? Yeah. It's like... You could stop your body from moving, but it's like, we can't really strap the head in. Like, they've got to be able to see,
especially the speed you're going at.
Yeah.
What are some like the top speeds that you do on an average speed around a?
We can get to 160.
Yeah.
So we can get to 160 when we turn into a corner. So, like I said, let's say it's a 400 meter track around the bottom. 100 meter each track, 100 meter each corner. So from coming out of the corner, we'll get to 150, 160, and then it's get to the wall and then turn into the corner. Mm-hmm. So that's obviously mentally very hard to be coming at a corner. And especially like a purpose-built race car, the faster you drive it, the easier they actually are to drive. Mm-hmm. So it takes a lot for you to sort of come into a corner and go, Yeah, rightio. That's a concrete wall there, but if I back out now, I'm definitely not going to turn, so I'm going to have to go real fast, because that's where it comes into it, where you've got something called mechanical grip and aero grip, and there's this, and mechanical grip's your tyres and your shocks and all that sort of stuff, whereas aero grip is all the aerodynamic features on your car. And there's a space in the middle called no man's land, and if you're in there, that's where you crash all the time.
Yeah.
Because you've got no more mechanical grip left to turn into a corner, but you also got nowhere enough aero grip to push the car into the ground to make it go around the corner. But back to the sort of the safety gear stuff, like we'll wear that locks of that neck restraint. We've got our seat belts, a belt that comes over our shoulders, one's over our lap, and then one comes up through our crotch. And like I said, that's designed to keep you pinned.
The difference between when your dad was racing compared to the standards of safety now when you're racing would be different for him to look at.
That's exactly right. Like, looking...
What era was he driving? 10, 20 years ago? Or
20 years ago, yeah, that 20 to sort of 30 year mark. So
end of 90s to start to...
Yeah, that sort of peak Hollywood era of race.
What's his opinion on now seeing the safety standards? Because he would have seen some brutal stuff.
Seen some stuff, but it's also a thing of looking at the race gear, it doesn't look that much different. So if I bring in his race suit versus my race suit, you'll look at it and go, yeah, they're both the exact same. But in terms of now what they're made out of,
the quality
and quality of it and all that, like, he would wear a suit that had one layer of fireproof material on it. Well, we can't race now unless it's got at least 3 on it. 3 layers, like that 3 layers sort of stuff within the suit. And same with helmets. Like, his helmet, my helmet look very similar. But what they've been able to do now, because another biggest problem is, like I said, with neck restraint, they figured out how to stop your neck going forward. But now they've got the problem is, well, your neck stopped going forward, but we can't stop your brain from bouncing back and forth in your skull. So they've had to do a lot of development with concussions. Major issue in racing. So obviously you got sports where you get hit and you hit your head on the ground and it's like, oh, with his head on the ground, he's concussed.
Yeah.
And you can sort of protect that a bit because you're falling from here to here, right? You can wear a helmet in rugby or in AFL and it helps and all that sort of stuff. It's still a danger of it, but it definitely helps a lot. But whereas in racing, there's nothing stopping your brain from bouncing. Like, you've hit the wall at 50 Gs of force. Well, your brain's rattling back and forth at 50 Gs.
Yeah, you could probably be stopped for a minute and your brain's just still constantly wrapping around.
Still going, mate, we need to calm down here a bit. And that's where it's so heavy on the concussion side versus like your small stick and ball sports, because if you fall from here to here, like, granted it's a hard impact and you're going to feel the repercussions over a couple of days, but if you hit a wall at 53G, it's a lot for your brain to go through.
Yeah. What are the medics on hand and things like that to do a concussion test? Because I know with AFL, if the medics for the AFL team say he's concussed, I think it's an instant 1 to 2 weeks off.
Same thing.
So that's why a lot of people trying to like say it's not. It's good if it's one of your best players, you want them out there next week. But if they say he's concussed, minimum 2 weeks, I think, in the AFL, and they can't play. Is that more of the same here? Or?
Same sort of deal. So before we can get a license, we've got to go through something called a medical exam. So I've actually got one this Thursday. So it's your routine stuff, your blood pressure, your BMI and all that sort of stuff, making sure you're relatively healthy. And then it's stuff like make sure you're not colourblind, checking your depth perception to make sure that, you know, you're all good on that front. Because, like I said, when you're going so fast, something happens in front of you real quickly, you've got to make sure your depth perception's pretty good to know what's happening.
You need that reaction.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the same after we have a big crash, like by rule of thumb, don't get me wrong, if you get wrecked by someone, you're probably more worried about going and probably, you know, throwing something at someone versus going to the ambulance. But but rule of thumb is you're meant to go straight to the ambulance and they'll go, you know, you're all okay and all that, and they'll do a couple quick checks on you because every race we go to, we have ambulance TAS there. Yeah. So it's not like it's a St. John ambulance or like just someone with a Medicare kit. It's a TAS ambulance.
Yeah.
You know, proper one.
Paramedics.
Yeah, proper paramedics. So they'll go through and they'll make sure that, you know, yeah, you're all okay and all that sort of stuff. Because like I said, it's, again, same with stick and ball sports. It's only been the last 10 years people have realised that, geez, concussion's actually a major issue.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, look at the footy, for example. All these ex-AFL players,
and
Gary Ablett Senior, for example,
are
now still in the AFL due to them having memory loss and all this stuff. So
yeah.
it's good to hear that all sports are kind of catching up with the science behind realising that concussions actually.
I think Will Smith, there was a movie with Will Smith, and he was on a Nigerian doctor that came over, and that was a terrific insight of like how this happened over the years, and especially with NFL. NFL is apparently shocking over the States.
Oh, it's like NRL rugby here.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And they got headgear protecting them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's like, it's the same sort of thing. Like, you can still buy a cheaper helmet. Like, that's probably the higher end scale helmet. Like, you can buy a helmet for sort of 3,000, and that's probably higher end scale, that one. You can still buy cheaper helmets, but in this day and age, it's just not worth it. Like, especially on safety, you just can't skimp on it anymore. Like,
no, I agree.
For what you're doing, if you can put yourself in really good gear, it's just what you've got to do.
Get it. Yeah. By the quality.
So would you say that would be the first investment as a race? If you were giving someone advice, let's say me, some advice, I want to become a racer, would you say make sure you have the right gear before you have the right car?
That's exactly right. Yeah,
Because
like if you came to me and said, "Hey, I can afford to buy the best car, but I'm going to be sitting in it in my underwear and my bike helmet," I'd be like, "Well, probably shouldn't buy the best car then."
Yeah.
Probably go down a bit, because at the end of the day, like racing, like that helmet lasts for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But a race car might only last you one night.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very fair point.
Right. My suit, again, however long, 5 years, all my safety gear can go for sort of that 5 year mark. So you may as well invest once and do it properly.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than go, oh yeah, well, I'll just get that later. Well, if you're crashing, like, it's very common for fires to happen. Like, I've been in a race car and I've had a fire happen. Like, trust me, when you're trying to get out of this car when it's on fire, you're like, oh, well, I'm glad I've got good safety gear on. Because I don't want to have to be sitting there cooking like a barbecue pork going, oh, well, I wish I'd spent the extra $500 on a good race suit.
You can't afford to learn the hard way. You need to afford to stand up to the standards what they've set and then be able to invest into the quality gear.
Yeah.
Because if you could, I don't know, be kind of stingy and don't want to spend the top of the quality safety, that could either be a life or death situation.
Well, you said, I'll get it next time. If you have an accident, there might not be a next time. So you might have the opportunity to get that gear because you cheapskate, didn't buy it, and now you're dead.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly
worst case scenario, obviously, that would be.
No, it's great. I think that's really good cover of the safety side of things, and it's good insight from you, Codes. So let's kind of talk about with the sponsor side of things. You do some work with one of your sponsors with McDonald's.
Yep.
So Ronald McDonald. Do you want to kind of get a bit more into depth of what's involved in that? And you've recently done some work with them. Do you want to kind of talk about that?
Is any, as well, just a quick question down to that, any contract? So it's like you sign a contract with a company and it's a 3-year contract minimum? Things like that?
Depends on the sponsor. So a lot of my stuff is still your sort of traditional, go see them every year, go, hey, look, are you still interested in coming on board again next year? And they'll either say, yep, no, we definitely are, or no, we're definitely not. But there is some cases where we've had like, we'll do a 3-year contract, sign a bit of paper. Yep, this is a 3-year contract, you paid over this period. It just depends on the person. Like, let's say, for example, if you and me have a conversation, like, I feel like we know each other pretty well and we're good enough where, I trust that you're going to go by your word and you trust I'm going to go by my word. So, but if it was someone that, you'd never met before and you've heard bad things about, you might be like, oh, we might just get this one in writing. But 9 times out of 10, it's very much just
pretty good by verbal.
Very good by verbal. Like and with all my sponsors, I've got a great relationship with all of them, and I value them all as great friends. So, I don't feel like I need any of that or need to do any of that. So,
no, good question. I think So, do you want to dive deep into not dive deep, but kind of cover the recent charity work you've done and what's involved with the Ronald McDonald?
Yeah, so that was absolutely awesome for us to do, right? Like, any time we can help a charity is absolutely amazing. There's stuff that we do that we've done as a club previously for charities and all that sort of stuff. And to be able to do something myself was also, like, I know you guys do a lot of charity work here for Dave Geordie and all that, which is really cool. So to be able to feel like you're giving back in some ways, really, really rewarding. So with our partnership with McDonald's, we were able to do something for McHappy Day for Ronald McDonald House. So when you're at a McDonald's store during that sort of November period, they'll say, would you like to buy a helping hand? Your hand goes around the store. So we thought, well, what would be really cool is if we went, what happens if we just get some helping hands, of course, courtesy of our sponsor at Sign Nation, get a whole heap printed out, you come buy a helping hand off us, write your name on it, we'll put it on top of the car. So through that, we we're able to raise just very, very shy of $1,100 over the course of 2 nights.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wicked.
Which
That's
was
awesome.
really, really, really cool. So to be able to give back to a place like Ronald McDonald House, which is a charity that is really taken for granted for, like, unless you need it, you don't really know it's there. That's the same with most charities, right? Like, you know, same with like the salvos, stuff like that. Unless you're in a situation of crisis, you don't know you need them, and that's where we're really, really happy to be able to give back to them.
No, well said. That's brilliant.
And yeah, it was really, like I said, self-rewarding. That, you know, it was mainly led by my partner Malia. She done a lot of the work for it to sort of get in as much.
Because she's got a connection with the business owners.
Yeah, so she works sometimes still there when she wants some part-time work, and that for McDonald's. Yeah. So through that, she's seen a lot of Ronald McDonald House stuff as well.
Yeah, because the one that sponsor you, they own in Hobart area.
Yeah, so
Bridgewater, is it?
Yeah, so they've got New Norfolk, Bridgewater, Moona, and North Hobart.
Yeah.
So they're fairly massive, sort of in southern Tassie.
Southern Tassie, yeah.
Yeah, so like, and we even were able to raise a lot of money up north at Latrobe, and we're racing there as well. So it's also really awesome to see people just dive into their pocket to help out other people as well. Like, that was really rewarding. Like, you're there and you're selling these hands, and it's just people people that probably can't really afford to give you $5 or $2, whatever, but just go, you know what, it's for the benefit of the good. We'll just reach in our pocket, pull out, put it in the bucket and all that. And that was really cool to see as well.
Yeah, that's how I feel with A Day for Geordie. And that's why it's great for the podcast to go into depth, because it's Ryan, who's part of the podcast.
Yeah.
It's his family. So I think it's rewarding. And to see who's part of it and where this kind of money goes, it is...
And
I think it's brilliant insight.
And like you said, a great cause like Ronald McDonald House, providing housing for people whose kids are sick in hospital, and like Dave for Geordie stuff, you know, suicide prevention stuff. Like, it's all real stuff that needs to be talked about, and the only way to talk about it is by putting action forward and doing something. And to be able to go to people like yourself and go to businesses or other people and go, hey, this is a problem we've got. Would you be willing to donate something to then help out? And, you know, whether it be, you know, a sickness to find a cure, or whether it be for stuff like Ronald McDonald House to provide funding. So, which is really cool.
Yeah. Summed it up perfectly. Yeah, 100%.
Do you have anything to add to the fundraising charity work? Because you're quite
a
step
over the
last years.
When I was pre-COVID, like when I came to approach businesses, I asked them, and then some people are like, oh, like, I'm in a shit situation myself, man. I generally can't. Like, I would, but I can't. But then when I kind of got down my pitch down pat a bit more, because at the end of the day you are trying to sell it, like in a sense, which is annoying to say, but that's what we do. But what I would go around and say, hey, look, if you can't do anything right now, what we're talking about, this is about spreading awareness, isn't it? Because then hopefully they're like, oh yeah, I can't contribute at the moment, man. Like, I got staff, whatever, to look after, and like, that's fine. But now hopefully, oh, who was that? Like, oh, he came talking about Day for Geordie, which is suicide prevention.
Yep.
Oh, wicked. And then that person goes home and tells a partner about it, and that person tells, and then that's what that
ripple effect.
That's at the end goal is what I'm aiming for. Just like, yeah, you can't contribute, but hey, just make sure, or even just go to your staff member, just say, hey guys, we all good? Like, everything okay? How are we traveling? How's everything going? And make sure we look after one another, because like, in reality, the world runs off money. The world runs off the currency to an extent, but just a conversation and anything that small is massive and goes a lot longer than what money can.
And that's exactly right. And it's the same like when we were doing Ronald McDonald stuff. Like, it's also amazing to see people who go, hey, we can't help, and then all of a sudden come back a year later, a week later, whatever, and go, hey, I've actually got something to help now. Like, people, it's really good to see that, you know, you hear a lot of stuff about bad stuff on the news and all that sort of stuff, but it's really awesome to, and the thing I found really rewarding about it is to generally see people that are still doing good and still want to do good. And that's the thing I found really rewarding about it. Like, you know, we're walking the bank and people are like, oh yeah, we'll buy a hand, or no, we won't buy a hand, we'll just put $15 in the bucket.
Yeah.
We don't need a hand, we'll just put $15 in the bucket and stuff like that. And that was really cool to see people just like, no, don't worry about it. You know, we'll just put some money in, or, you know, they'll buy a $2 hand, but all of a sudden $10 goes in the bucket or something like that. And that was cool to see people actually, like, you know, really, really want to help other people. Which is
I think if everyone could donate, they would. But if they can help in another way by spreading the word, or by kind of being an advocate for wanting to support any charity by any way, I think that's just great by having these charities just out there. So,
well, yeah, like Ryan summed it up. You know, like even if you can't get something out of someone, like, you know, like you said, you went to a business and you couldn't get anything out of them. At least then they're going to their staff and going, "Hey, we all okay here?" Like, because if they're a business owner with 10 staff, that's 10 people.
Yeah.
And then if those 10 people then go home,
even half.
Yeah, even half. Let's say it's 5 people go home to a family of 4. Well,
Exactly.
You know, you're now 20 people. You know, like, or more than 20 people. Sorry, I can't do the math on that.
No.
I still pass school very well, but you know, it's something where you're able to do amazing stuff, and that's where I found it really rewarding. Like, even if they couldn't donate, it's like they go, "That's right." Ronald McDonald House to think, you know what? When on the 16th of November, which is what it was this year, when I'm going to go buy dinner, because that's our family dinner, we're going to go to McDonald's and buy a Big Macs because it helps.
Yeah,
100%, mate. Brilliant. I think that's a great way to cover a lot of the work you do off the racecourse.
Yep.
Is there anything else you do for your sponsors as well? Or is it just mainly Ronald McDonald that you do the majority for?
So
we still are technically talking about what we do for sponsors.
Yeah. So we do. Yeah, it's a good thing to get off topic about.
100%.
We do a lot of charity work, like I said, with McDonald's, and that's where, you know, we find that we can be the most benefit to them, because with sponsors, at the end of the day, it's not just about them giving you money or product or something like that, and then that be the end of it. You're still trying to service them because that's what they're paying you for. They're paying you for promotion and being serviced and all that sort of stuff. So we're lucky where we've got obviously advertising spaces on the car, and we try and do, stuff like these podcasts where we can also advertise to different people. Because this is a very different demographic usually than what we might have at a speedway, right?
Well, that's why we have you on, because it's complete demographics of what we've had on in the past, so it'd be a great way to spread everything, and it works vice versa. Exactly
right, and that's it. I can talk to you guys about this, what Speedway is, and these are my sponsors, and then we can come away from this, and you might go, actually, you know what? Van Diemen's Cafe Doors, I really need a food truck this week. I'm going to give them a call.
Well, we might need one for David Geordie.
That's what I mean.
Bang.
Or
great food.
Yeah, or, Taz Steel Products. You know what? I'm redoing my concrete driveway right now. We're going to put in concrete piping. Why not?
Bang.
It's just stuff like that where you've got to broaden your horizon, your audience, and try and get as much people to know what's going on as you can, because that's where the value is in sponsorship, right? Is that, for every person, and I don't really care what business you're in, all that, wants to get the most bang for their buck they can get. So if we can offer a product where it's a different type of marketing, like it's very different to your TV and to your radio type stuff, we can offer a different type of marketing and also personalise that to people. So we'll try a lot of our stuff through Hobart Powder Coating, all of our stuff's powder coated through them. So when people come to me and go, "Hey mate, that car and that's again why we have to present a really nice looking race car, because they'll come to me and go, "Geez, that car looks nice. Where did you get that done at?" Go, "That's done by Hobart Powder Coating."
So it's powder coating like the whiteness of it, like painted like that before you get it wrapped with Sign Nation.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And same again with Sign Nation.
Big shout out to Anthony Bewley.
Yeah, big shout out to Anthony Bewley. We don't want to go out with a car that looks absolutely destroyed because it makes it look bad for him. That's the product Sign Nation do, is vehicle wrapping and building signage and all that sort of stuff. And if your car looks bad for that sponsor who does that work, people are going to walk past and go, "Geez, mustn't be a very good sign shop. This wrap's fallen off this car." Yeah. He's done a lap and those stickers are flying off. That's not a place I'm going to take my business to get work done. And it's the same with our race gear, our suits and all that. We try and look professional for race industries, because that's the market they deal in. I can't really show up to the suit to the track in a really ratty race suit and clothes and all that, because that's what race industries do. They don't want to be in partnership with someone that's got really, really, just look not the part or look really draggy or have really draggy gear and all that.
Yeah, if you want a good PR for yourself.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you do present yourself well, you present your sponsors well, and they're sponsoring you because you presented it well. So
that's right, and
brilliant.
And like what we do at McDonald's with a lot of charity work, and that you've got to tailor each sponsor as well. You've got to, if they want you somewhere to do something like that, that's what you do. And when I say want you to, I sort of sound a bit like I don't want to, but I love to do that sort of stuff. Like I like going to events with sponsors and being able to show off my stuff as well, because I feel like that's really rewarding for me. Like we were a year or two ago now, we were down at Forming Cafe down at Bridgewater, and to have kids come up to the race car and sit in the race car and all that sort of stuff was really awesome as well. So like I said, I really thoroughly actually enjoy working with my sponsors. There's a lot of people that don't, but I actually thoroughly really enjoy doing all different types of stuff with all them. I find it really rewarding.
So let's lead into a segue where it's like, how do you help present the league? So you're a vice president of the league?
Yeah, so I'm vice president
Do you
of the
want to
club.
quickly cover what the league is, the name of the league, and what your role is?
Yeah, so the club that I'm vice president of is Tasmanian Dirt Late Model, or Late Model Racing Tasmania, I think is actually the actual name on the bank card. And I'm the vice president. We've got our president Alan Cleary, our secretary treasurer Michelle Bailey, and we have our wide range of a committee. So our main role is to provide our members / drivers a good, consistent product, whether it be race meetings or whether it be prize money or whether it be promotion for them.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, a club's nothing without members or drivers for it. So you've got to do your absolute best to work and get what they want. So through Late Models Tasmania, we do a wide range of stuff as well. So at Hobart Speedway on the weekend, they had their annual Christmas meeting. And for that, through the amazing generosity of Toy World in Devonport, we were able to supply all the kids that raced in the bike race with toys, which is really cool to be able to do. We went able to walk around the venue and give out buckets full, like massive buckets full of lollies. Like we all had about 2 each and just absolutely walking around, just handing out lollies and that. Because it's the same thing as I was talking about sponsors earlier, like you want to give back to these people because without them you've got nothing. So like I can't go racing this weekend if no one's sitting on the bank. So, or no one's sitting in the grandstands, or there's no if I overlook a kid that comes up to me and wants a poster sign or something like that, well, he's going to get a bad taste in his mouth, and he's not going to bring his kids when he's 30.
Yeah.
So,
and then he's going to slag off Taz Racing for ages.
That's exactly right. Then I'm just going to get bagged out.
Exactly. It's like in 14
Who's this Cody dude?
Yeah.
In 14 years' time, when that kid's turned 28, oh fuck, racing. No, when I was 11, this happened. And
Yeah.
that one insignificant minor experience, well, not so insignificant to him, has just rippled effect through his whole life. And how many people have he talked to saying, fuck Taz Racing? Oh, you hate Taz Racing? You're my best mate.
Oh, that Cody dude.
Fuck,
Oh,
yeah,
Cody,
it's exactly
what a
right.
dick.
Yeah. And
That's why the wraps fall off at Sign Nation.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's like the same, like, you know, with like yourself, like, you know, if we do, like I said, you're always trying to represent yourself better. Like if I'm at the track, I always make time to sign posters, give stickers, talk to kids and all that sort of stuff, because at the end of the day, I don't need their parents going back to my sponsors going, that guy you sponsor is an absolute twat.
Yeah.
Because all it does is hurt me in the long run anyway.
Yeah.
So
it comes back to the PR side.
it comes exactly back to it. Like,
but I know you personally. You're a genuinely good bloke, so it does help when you do put this persona on when you are dealing with, I don't know, your fans or your sponsors. You present yourself how you are, and that's important. Instead of having two sides to the coin.
And that's the major thing, right? Like, we're sitting here, we're having a drink, having a bit of a chat and all that, but at the end of the day, like, if we shut the camera off, we're still going to have this chat, right?
Yeah, exactly
right. To me, I look at it sort of as like, you are nothing without somebody else, right? Like, I'm not sitting here having a chat to you about racing without my parents, without my sponsors, without people coming and supporting racing, without, whether they like it or not, I really don't mind that side of it. Like, as long as they're coming and supporting racing, like, they can think that I picked their favourite driver or they just don't like me as a person or whatever, that's fine. But still come and boo me, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, as long as you're there, I don't really mind.
Yeah.
Like, so that's where the side of it, I think, is, and that's where Late Models Tasmania do an absolutely incredible job, especially through Alan Cleary, the president, of trying to give back to the younger fans as much as possible.
And how did you become vice president?
Me, probably had a drink somewhere along the line and agreed to it when I shouldn't have done. It was just the thing of that. I just literally just put my hand up one day and went, you know what, I'd like to do this because I'd like to broaden my horizon. Because it's really easy to sit back and go, oh yeah, he's not doing a good job of that.
Yeah.
Or, oh yeah, no, I'll do it this way. Or, this is how it should be done. But when you're actually sort of in the know of everything that happens and all that sort of stuff, it's like, oh, what did I agree to this role for? This is actually really, really hard.
Well, it's great to see they actually were happy to elect someone as young as you as well.
Yeah,
instead of just having little older people, because then younger people, oh, look at that old bastard or whatever, just making those decisions. But when they see someone younger,
no mate, we're not the US election here.
Yeah. So you can actually relate to younger people. So then, what Alan is it?
Yeah.
So he can come like, oh, what do people around your age think about change and what should we do and things like that?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to assume...
It's like democracy. You want to vote
exactly
people
right.
who can...
On top of my head, I'm going to assume Alan's 30...
Yeah, 30, 40.
Yeah, exactly right. So he can relate to that demographic and you can relate to that younger demographic.
Yeah, and that's it.
Great to hear.
Because at the end of the day, it's a product where you've got to be doing different stuff all the time. Because it's like, if I'm in a restaurant and I only serve a pizza and it's the exact same pizza, you're going to go there and get it 2 or 3 times and go, this was great. But eventually you're just going to be like, I'm just not going to go there anymore. Like, I'm getting one bloody pizza, and realistically, after the 3rd time, it wasn't really that great anyway.
I don't know about that. I've been going to Lex and Breast 10 years now, mate. It's the exact same every time, and I love it every time.
But
we're going to take a quick break, and we'll get back straight into it.
Awesome.
So welcome back again. We're going to get into the future of Cody's racing. So we're going to start with, what's your next plan? Is it a future with going to the Australian titles? Is it just focusing on the Tasmanian racing?
Well, hopefully my next plan is to leave here and go to bed. But
very good.
But in terms of racing, of course you got long-term goals and all that. But I'm realistically enough to know that it's an expensive sport. It's a risky sport and all that sort of stuff. So you can only plan sort of so far ahead before something goes wrong. It's also very, I don't really know the right word for it, but this weekend, if we go racing, for example, and we break a motor, that's a massive bill that we just don't have the money sitting there to fix. Right?
How long does that put you out for?
Oh, for us now, if we were to break a motor, I'd say it'd probably put us out for another 9 months.
Yeah, right.
And that's not, of course, that's got a lot to do with money side, right? It's very expensive when you do hurt them. But parts are still really hard to get. So during COVID, we struggled a lot with getting parts. The whole world did struggle to get stuff. And during a lot of that time, people realised in the production side of it, and the machining side of the world, that we've got one of everything sitting on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no one really buys all that stuff. So we're just going to build the normal stuff. If you want anything else, ring us up, we'll make it. But because they're now doing a whole heap of those one-off orders, for a set of pistons in our motor, when we sent it away last time, we got told that's probably 6 months.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit of aluminium, 6 months.
Yeah, well, with that, we got the Mercedes work van at Zerko. They stuffed up and we meant to have 2 sliding doors on each side. They only put 1.
Yep.
Now it's going to have to wait another year to get that extra sliding door because it comes from Germany, wherever. An extra whole year's wait because on their stuff up.
And that's exactly right.
So it's crazy.
And it's only because not everyone wants a 2-door van, so we're just not going to make them anymore.
Exactly.
And that's what people realised through COVID is we don't really have to have one of everything sitting anywhere. If someone really wants it, they'll wait for it. If not, they'll just get the 1 door and that'll just be what they have. In terms of long-term goals, to get back to more to the question, I'm really... For the rest of this year, we'll race in Tassie until Easter time. Then we'll go over to a place called Moama/Echuca, which is on the border of Victoria and New South Wales, about sort of centre-ish in the map. We'll race there. That's a $10,000 to win show, I believe, at the moment, to win that. So,
do you have to pay to enter, or is it you being good at what you do and you get invited to go?
Depends on the race. So some races it is invite. But for example, that race we're going to go do, I think it's $150 to enter. And that the reason they usually do that for is so they're not everyone just enters and just no one shows up. If you've got to pay a nomination or an entry form, then it means you're actually committing to going. Because even though it's $150, which in the scheme of things isn't that much really, don't get me wrong, it's still a bit of money, but if you've got to put that down, then you're sort of a lot more enticed that you're definitely going to go. You're not going to back out of that. So we'll go there. And then the week after, I think they've got the Victorian title at a place called Wiganya, which is just east on the border there as well. So we'll race there as well, and then we'll come home. So that'll just be a nice little period for us to finish off the year. Mid this year, we've got a couple of shows. We've got the state title at Hobart for the Tasmanian title. It's on the 15th of February. I believe that's now being sponsored by Tas Plant Hire. Don't quote me on it. I should know that being the vice president, but probably wrong. And then we've got a couple big shows at Carrick in March, or the end of February, March type period, which will be really cool to get to as well. So, and that's meant to be for a bit of money as well. So hopefully, like I said, we'll finish off the year, have a pretty sort of quiet year this year, and then, like you said, next year we'll definitely look at going to an Australian title if it's on the eastern seaboard, and do a lot more racing on the mainland, because it's, like I said earlier, it's really fun just to sort of load up the truck, and me and Dad usually go, and Mum, Malia and Kate and all that will fly in later, and it's really fun to sort of just jump in the truck with me and Dad and just go driving around Australia. Like, it's actually quite,
it's like a road trip with purpose.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's not like we're driving aimlessly, so we're road trip with purpose, but and like as you guys know, quality time with your family is always great.
It's great experience, and
yeah,
you're not only you being able to enjoy something you love, being able to race, but you're also being able to spend some time and being able to explore the state and country.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Like when I was younger, racing junior stands and that, we lived on the Gold Coast, but we raced at Mackay, which is 14 hours away. Like completely different world. Completely different world. Like you go up there and it's just all sugarcane fields. And like I was from the Gold Coast, like it's massive skyscrapers everywhere. You just drive 14 hours up the road just to go racing some sugarcane field for the fun of it. Like that was really cool to be able, like a great core memory sort of as a kid to be able to go do stuff like that. And that's where I get them taken from my parents. But yeah, like I said, we'll try and sort of have a quieter year this year, just sort of, recoup and replan and all that, and then we'll try and go pretty big next year and do
a 2028 of December, 2024 was your last race for the year?
Yeah, so the 28th of December this year will be at Latrobe. That'll be our last race of this year. And then we have about a month and a half off to the 15th.
2025 is your big plans?
Yeah, so 2025. So the Speedway season works in split halves, a bit like how the NBA sort of does, where they work in split halves. So we've got a 2024-2025 season, and then you'll have a 2025-2026 season. Yep. So the reason it works like that for is because it rains obviously a lot in the winter. It's very cold in the winter, so who really wants to sit on a hill and watch cars go around in -3 temperature, right? Yeah. We'll start racing usually in late October, early November, and then we'll go through till about Easter time there, about April. So yeah, like I said, it's really looking forward to obviously going away and continue racing what we're doing here at the moment. And like I said, the next year and the year after that, we're hoping to do a lot more travelling and being able to sort of compare where we're at on the scale. Like it's really hard, especially in Tassie, like as you guys know, you're so isolated. So if you win down here, you don't really know what that means when you're on the mainland. Like if I win down here, I don't know if that means, am I in the top 10 on the Eastern Seaboard, or am I like in the top 5? Or it's sort of hard to give yourself a gauge. So it's really nice to go away and do a lot more travelling.
So you just enjoy the process. That's your kind of...
Yeah. That's it. Like you said, I don't know you're the same, Sam. Like you don't really need... it's just... obviously you plan for the future, but at the end of the day, things can change. And so quickly, especially with what I do in motorsport and that, if you lose sponsorship and that, makes it real hard to go racing. But then if you gain a hyper sponsorship, well, you're like, oh well, let's just go. We've got the funds to do it now. So it's very much a fluid situation of what you can, what you can't do.
No, brilliant. Which leads me to ask you, so coming to the end of the podcast, we're going to ask you 2 more questions.
Yep.
Any big goals or dreams you're chasing?
Yeah,
so... What kind of leads to what we just said before, you're enjoying the process, but are there any titles or any races you really want to compete in?
I'd really like to win the Australian title. That's sort of everyone in Australia. That's just what you want to do. It's if you do that, even though it doesn't mean you're probably the fastest, because it's over one night, 1 weekend, so anything can happen, right? But to be able to put a number 1 on the side of your car, to go, I am the best in Australia this year. Yeah. That's a really cool thing to be able to do. And dirt late models. They're built in the US, so they're US based. That's where we import them out of when we buy a car. So I'd really like to go to the US and do some racing if I could one day. That'd be really cool. We've got a lot of massive race over there, and over there it's a business, right? It's not like it is sort of here where it's a hobby / business. Over there it is just strictly a business. Like they'll go racing, like they'll have multiple $100,000 win races a year. Like the year before they raced for $1 million. Like it's not
in the US or Australia.
In the US,
yeah,
and that's $1 million USD. That's like 150,000. That's like 1.5 million Australian. Like it's a business over there, so I'd really like to go over there and experience that side of it. You know, it's a bit like yourself, like you said, you're going to the US for the World Cup. Like it's just something else you can experience, right? Like it's just something that you don't know until you go there, and you're like, well, this is a whole different ballgame. Like, which I'd really like to do, and like do some racing over there. And we're lucky, we've got a relationship with a couple of people over there where it looks like that might be able to happen sort of one day, which would be really nice. So,
would you have to ship your own car over, or could you get one over there? Like even just hire a car?
Yeah, so you can obviously hire one over there, or buy one over there. So we'll look. Like, don't get me wrong, if I could ship my own gear over there, like that'd be cool to take your own car and race over there. But it's just financially not really viable. Like it's sort of $10,000 to ship your car over there.
And if it gets damaged and breaks over there, then it's just like crap there.
Yeah,
it's completely do a new rebuild when I get home.
Yeah, that's
like
exactly
if you do another
right.
car over there, you probably have to pay a sum for it, and it'll be their problem.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's more the fact of just logistical side of it. Like the car's built in the US anyway.
Yeah.
So it just makes a lot more sense to buy one or rent one or whatever over there. Like I said, we're lucky we've brought gear out of the US before, so we've got a pretty good relationship with some people over there where it looks like, you know, one day if I do go over there, I was having a conversation with one of the guys we brought our current motor off, and he said, look, when you're over next, when you come over, just let me know, and there's a car here for you to drive.
Yeah,
so it'd be pretty cool to be able to go over there and do that. That'd be a great experience, I think. So yeah, hopefully one day, but wait and see what happens.
Excellent.
And when you say car, is that just the body of the car or everything? Engine, wheels,
Depends.
roll cage? Because I'm going to assume, like, when you roll a car, sometimes you can obviously salvage a lot of it besides the body itself. So do you have multiple bodies at your place on standby? Or
Yeah, so with my car, like the car itself, so think about it as like a dune buggy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the best way to think about it. Like it's got all that roll cage stuff there, and then it's got panels off of it, right? Like if I pull all the doors and all that off of it, it still works.
Yeah.
Same my race car, right? Like the panels there just sort of there for either aero or looks, depending on which one they are. So we have lots of spare panels and stuff like that in case you damage them and all that. And then below that, we'll have spare shock absorbers and spare front end assemblies. So like, your whole front corners, because if you usually fit the wall in the front end, you'll take out what they call a front corner, which is an upper arm, a lower arm, and a spindle and a steering arm. And we can replace stuff like that. So that's where we've got a transporter, and that's like a truck, and that's where that really helps having that, because we're able to carry all that stuff with us. Like unless we do some pretty serious damage, we're pretty much able just to fix the car and go again.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. So, and yeah, that's where, like where I said, we come back to that US stuff, and that's where you can get into a bit of trouble, and where people have got into trouble in the past US is gone over there with just enough money to rent a car, and then gone over there and wrecked it and gone, oh well, I'm out of money now, and that sort of ended their experience and all that sort of
possible
stuff. So,
career as well.
yeah, that's it. So like I don't really want to go do it unless I can sort of do it half properly. Like even if I'm racing at so they've got what they call over there, they've got a national level, which is all around the US, and they've got a regional level, which is your states, and they've got a local level, which will be like your, let's say
Your
for example,
suburban area.
yeah, that's like Tennessee, that'd be like a local, whereas not Tennessee, sorry, like Knoxville would be like a local,
Yep.
then Tennessee would be your regional, and then your national stuff. So, even if I could only race at a regional level, which would be like I said, what they do over there is business. They'll race 100 nights a year. So they'll be in the car 100 times out of 352 days.
Well, US nearly have 8 times, 10 times the population of what Australia is. So,
Australia's got 26 million. They've got about 370 million.
yeah, so probably 20 times the population. Just
Lots
about.
more
So
money
it's
rolling in
like, even if a third, a quarter, or 10% of the population follows what you do over there, it's still probably double.
That's exactly right.
Four, like it'll be, and that's just our population alone. So it'll be ridiculous the industries and markets that they can get into over the US. It's its own world to an extent.
It is 100%.
How much is over there?
I think to put this to conclusion, because we can keep talking, which is great, but
Keep talking smack.
I think for the future, and we're talking about a lot of the future side of things. What advice do you have for like future races, Cody? And what do you reckon, mate, about how do you define how the racing's coming? Do you think it's because the whole costing? We've got people like Elon Musk who are bringing these electric cars. Like, where do you see racing going?
It's a very interesting question, actually. It's a very good question. Like, racing to me, in terms of what I do and in terms of like Formula 1 and NASCAR and stuff like that, I think they'll always be an internal combustion engine. Like, I think that'll just always be the way it is. But you'll have EV class like your Formula E, and NASCAR have recently gone up with an EV car and all that sort of stuff. So I think you'll find that eventually it probably will take over. I just think it's just the natural evolution of stuff, right? Eventually the horse and cart died. Like, I don't want it to take over, but
that's like Ford and cast racing back in 1800s.
Yeah, like eventually it just, something changes, right? It can't be the same forever, and that's just part of evolution. Like, I don't want it to, like, don't get me wrong, but in terms of the current state of the sport, I think it's in a great place. Like, there's more money now than what there really ever has been on the mainland, especially. The cars and teams are a lot more, like, it's not like it was in the 70s where you just saw this guy having a smoke in his race car and going to smoke out the window and going, oh, well, I better go drive this thing around. Like, it's a very professional operation. Like myself, I'll train at the gym 2 days a week. I'm also doing stuff with sponsors weekly, and I'll work for 30 hours in the car a week. Like, it's changed a lot in that aspect already to keep up with professional stuff. And like I said, back in the marketing stuff, it's got to. Because at the end of the day, you need sponsors to sort of pay for it, and you need to get them by being professional. So, and in terms of that, I think that's the way it's going to keep evolving. Like, I just think eventually, like I said, it might not be electric vehicles, but I think it'll be something eventually, right?
I couldn't imagine just like watching, like, I used to love NASCAR for some weird reason, and just like hearing the roar of multiple V8 engines just going past, like 20 or 30 of them, to then go and just hearing a like, it doesn't sound right. It just sounds like you're watching air.
And that's what I mean. I think there will always be a place for it, but I just think it'll be a niche thing. Or not even a niche thing. I think your road car might be electric, but they'll still have internal combustion race cars. It's like, at the moment, you've got main road cars are internal combustion engines, but you've got EV racing. I think it's just going to be the same sort of thing. You'll have internal combustion racing thing. But yeah, in terms of state of sport, like I said, it's very... We've got a lot of really good guys that I race with, and all the teams now are very much like everyone races, like as I'm wearing now, everyone wears crew shirts, everyone wears dresses nicely to the track. Like, it's not a, this is my singlet I've had for the last 25 years, I'm going to wear this for 16 holes into the track, because you're trying to represent yourself. So in terms of that side of life, it's getting a lot better, commercial viability, and it's all obviously a lot better. And yeah, I believe that it's on a right path. Like, don't get me wrong, there's stuff that can be better with it. Like, there is everything. But in terms of where it's actually going, I think it's in a pretty good spot. And then back to the thing where you said about young people and all that. At the end of the day, you've just got to be committed. Like, eventually it'll all... Like, don't get me wrong, there's roadblocks for people and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to sit here and preach that, anyone can do anything, just put your mind to it. Because sometimes things just aren't possible, as in, like, there is just barriers you can't get over. Right? But if you've got the opportunity to, put 110% into it. Like, I really get annoyed when I see, like, especially young kids and that, and even, adults and all that sort of stuff, when they're given a really good opportunity, but they just don't grasp it, or just don't go 110% into it. Like, there's a lot of people, and that's where my parents have instilled in me and tell me constantly that just remember how lucky you are to be doing what you're doing.
Well, you said just coming down with passion, and they don't have the opportunity. You came from a family of racers, just about, at least you and your father's side.
Yep.
There might be someone out there that's passionate, has all the drive, but then the parents aren't into that.
Yep.
And now he's got to do a $30,000 rebuild on his own.
Yep.
But that's not going to take 9 months, which seems like a compared to him, I wish I can take 9 months. I'm going to have to take 18 months to rebuild my own engine because I'm working a part-time job. I still got school, etc. and things like that. And then he's probably got his parents on his back saying, well, what are you doing focusing on racing? Like, you're not going to make any money. It's just bleed in your dry, go to school, go to uni, go get a secure job, and then maybe come back to your hobby.
Yeah.
But your parents are probably driving you. It's not a hobby. It's something... It is a hobby, but it's just like it's a hobby that you love, and we can help you, and we can do what we can to support you.
And that's exactly right, and that's what I mean by, like, I was told by my parents, if you want to keep racing, but we're only going to help you for as long as you're helping yourself, right? Like, if I didn't put in all my effort, they wouldn't help me.
Yeah.
And that'd be silly too, right? Like, it's expensive. Like, you know, they probably want to be on a yacht in Fiji somewhere, or on a boat or a cruise or something, but they're like, oh, well, Cody's just crashed another race car, so... Yeah. But in terms of that, like, I just get really annoyed when I see kids, like I said, adults that have these great opportunities that just don't take them. Like, and it's the same thing with, like, people going, oh, well, I can't afford it. Well, yeah, you probably can't, but at least try to raise capital. Like, go and see sponsors. Like, just pound the pavement.
Got a hopper drive down in Kingston.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Give it a go before you want to...
Give it a go. Like, but it's not even that. Like, pound the pavement. Try and get some sponsors. Try and get this, like... I've got 11 sponsors in my car, and I realistically, out of the 11, had maybe 1 or 2 come up to me and say, hey, would be interested in sponsoring you if you can tell us a good reason for it.
Mm.
Like, the other one, you've got to ring up, you've got to do that sort of stuff. And it's really uncomfortable, don't get me wrong. Like, if I come to you guys and go, hi, my name's Cody, can you please give me some... Like, it's a good conversation to have with someone.
I've gone into businesses with David Jordan and go, hey, I'm... And then fuck. And then that start of it, butchered everything. And I said, oh, we'll think about it. And then I walk out of that like, fuck, I just butchered the whole thing. That's one business that doesn't want to do it. Again, it's fine. It doesn't faze me too much. And then before going into my next business, when I was just walking door to door, I'm like, sat down outside. All right, relax, chill out. It's calm. You're just having a conversation. Go in, do the exact same thing I just did to someone. And I've learnt so much from that. And this podcast has allowed me to speak more calmly and clearly. I still butcher some words, don't get me wrong. Watching back some reels, it's like, I can't use that reel because what the fuck am I talking about? Like, I make zero sense. But
gibberish.
Exactly right.
Let's give you any shout outs do you want to give?
Yeah, obviously, like I said earlier, both my parents, like, and I can't stress it enough, and I know I talk about it a lot, and sounds really repetitive, but I wouldn't be where I am without them. They sacrifice a lot for me.
Well, you wouldn't be on the surf if you didn't have
No, that's exactly right. They start work at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And they finish work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They work 12-hour days every day, and they're now 51, 54. Like, they're at that time where they're sort of trying to wind down work, but because I'm here, like, hey, let's go racing this weekend, they're like, oh, well, we better get out of bed.
Oh, Dad, come help me in the garage for a second, Dad.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, like, without them, I, wouldn't be able to do anything like this. And like I said, my partner, obviously Malia, she's great sport and always has been. Obviously she gets frustrated sometimes, like, hey, it's our 3-year anniversary. You're in the shed. And it's like, oh yeah, don't let that worry you. We'll celebrate that at some point, I'm sure.
3 years, 13 years. We got plenty of time.
Say that, don't worry you.
This car needs attention now.
Yeah. You're still going to be here next week. Race meeting's not going to be here next week. And then, like I said, Caden, he does an absolutely amazing job. He's started helping probably in the last 2 years and learning more and more. And someone who didn't really come from a mechanical background environment, like I said earlier, it's really great to see him, what he's doing and how he's coming along and helping stuff, which is great. And Matt, obviously, who comes and helps all the time, and Ricky and all that, when he can fly and help, and he's a great supporter of mine and will always ring me and tell me what I'm doing wrong or doing right. And then, like I said earlier, my sponsors, like, without them, I couldn't go racing. So it's really great to be able to get great support from them. So, yeah, like I said, we'll go racing again shortly, and hopefully we have...
Where can people find you?
Yeah, so on Facebook, CLC Racing. Same with on Instagram, I believe it's clc.racing. And obviously at the 3 speedway tracks we have in the state, which is Cranes Combined Carrick Speedway, Auto Clean Hobart Raceway, and Gulf Western Independent Autos Raceway. Or if you can't find it there for some reason, you can also go via the Late Model Racing Tasmania Facebook page, and they've got plenty of updates there, and you should be able to find us there.
And the next race is the 28th of December.
28th of December, yep, just after Boxing Day, so I'll get a little bit of a reprieve over Christmas and, watch some cricket on Boxing Day, and then, get ready to go racing again.
There we go. Well,
fantastic.
Codes, absolute pleasure having you on, mate.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you guys having me on, and really loved being here. It's good fun.
And we'll look forward to hearing more about 2025.
Thank
Hopefully
you
get you on again.
It'd be great. Thanks, guys.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Cheers. And follow us on
The
social
socials.
media. Yep, there you go.
Find us if we're not on that social. Search another one.